Hey everyone! In today's video, I am going to tell you what is the best focal length for portraits. Welcome to Manual Mode Photography. Hey everyone, welcome to ManualModePhotography.com. On this channel we discuss all about photography lessons, tips, and ideas for photography, camera reviews, lenses reviews, and lot more. In today's video, we will discuss about what is the best focal length for portraits. Focal length plays a very important role in photography depending on a photographer's personal style. Not all photographers who start in photography know how to get the best results using their lenses. They do need assistance at some point in their life. This is where the need of guides like our video, What is the best focal length for portrait photography, comes into play. We are providing this guide to explain which focal lengths are ideal for your portraits. Why focal length is important. The size of a focal length has the most important role in photography. Using ideal focal length can leave an impact on the final look of the photos. Using zoom lenses with a range of focal lengths, such as 70 mm for portraiture, makes the result pretty impressive with fine details. For this reason, it is a must for a photographer to carefully choose the focal length before going out for a photo shoot. They are quite useful, but you must be careful when composing a portrait. To prevent distortion in the frame's corners, make sure to frame your topic closer to the center of the frame. 3 different portrait styles with common focal lengths. There are many different sorts of portraiture, but only 3 of them are significant and deserving of consideration. The common portrait. This is essentially the most common kind of portrait pose. Typically, it occurs when the intended subject stares directly into the camera and is aware that the photographer is clicking away. Only the head and shoulders are captured in this style of photograph. There is continuous eye contact. Usually, a focal length between 35 and 70 mm is ideal. You can capture the portrait without distorting it by doing this. Candid photos. Anonymous portraits are another name for candid portraits. This portrait style, as the name implies, is used when the subject is unaware that a photograph is being taken of him or her. 28 mm is the ideal focal length for this type of photography. This will enable you to eavesdrop on your target as much as you like. Creative portraits. You can break free from the constraints of photography with creative portraits. You have total creative flexibility when using this style of photography to produce the artwork you've always desired. For artistic or conceptual photography, the focal length ranges from 85 to 105 mm. The basis for this is that they are lighter, more rounded, and produce excellent landscape photos. Choosing lenses for portrait photography. Any lens may be used to capture anything, but the results may differ. You need to find which lens would work the best in your portrait shots. For each scene, you might have to use different focal lengths. We suggest using some of these for portrait photography. 35 mm lens. Most of the time, including when photographing people in portraits, the 35 mm lens yields the best results. You are now closer to your chosen subject if you choose to use the 35 mm lens. The subject attains modeling height and adopts a pleasing or satisfying attitude at this distance. The 35 mm lens's versatility cannot be paralleled by that of any other lens. That is why so many professional photographers like and utilize the 35 mm format. 50 mm. The 50 mm is the most well-known, reliable, and evident of all the prime lenses, and it is also considered by many photographers. For many reasons, it may be the most widely used lens length in all of photography. The reason is that a 50 mm lens will always feel natural to photographers because it is the closest focal length to what the human eye sees. Second, it is the least expensive focal length to purchase. Both in the studio and on site, the 50 mm focal length is very capable of producing some fantastic photos that feel both natural and eye-catching. And the 50 mm has many important benefits in addition to being very economical and simple to use. The consistency of its use and clarity stands out the most. Even the most affordable 50 mm lenses vary greatly from one copy to the next. This simply indicates that the production process is quite consistent, making it unlikely that you'll receive a subpar copy. 85 mm lens. The 85mm focal length is a fantastic option for portrait shots. You can get a good shot without getting too close if you are using an 85mm lens. You can capture your subject from a suitable distance in this way. This lens is frequently used by well-known photographers because it is thought to be the ideal focal length for portraiture as you don't have a professional background to handle it. A portrait taken with an 85mm lens will appear much more realistic because the chosen model's facial characteristics won't be distorted. 135mm lens. The 135mm focal length is popular since it is a much longer lens than the 85mm. This lens has a narrow field of vision that necessitates back and forth movements of the figure in order to capture the desired image. However, because it compresses your subject, it is not the wisest move. You can even get the close-ups and headshots using this lens. Long telephoto lenses. Long telephoto lenses are useful for taking portraits when the situation allows. They necessitate a great deal of space between you and the subject, which can provide challenges in a studio but is frequently advantageous in an outdoor location. You only need a few feet of the aesthetically attractive background when using a 200mm lens to take a headshot, so you can get stunning images almost everywhere. A narrower field of view has the apparent advantage of making it much simpler to choose a visually appealing background for your image. The flattering impact of increasing compression is visible, and it becomes even more evident at 200mm. At the same time, you may take a step back from your subject and crop the photo to lessen the wide-angle lens distortion. Zooming in before the snap will spare your pixels. With the telephoto lens, you can also get a shallower depth of field, giving the foreground and background appealing effects. 18mm. This is the smallest focal length for portrait photography to start with. This type of lens is used very less because when capturing a face, where the foreground is the area closest to the lens and the background is everything else, a wide-angle lens exaggerates the relative size of foreground objects and makes background objects appear farther away. As a result, the nose appears larger than it should, especially in comparison to the rest of the face. Take an example of this portrait by Mikhail Nilov. 24mm lens. To be really honest, using 24mm lenses for portrait photography is not that prevalent. The fundamental justification for this is that the subject is so close up that it defines whatever insecurities a person might have. Additionally, the 24mm camera lens exaggerates facial features, resulting in an unnecessarily large nose and small eyes and lips. Which is better for portrait shots, prime or zoom? Zoom lens. The difference between prime and zoom lenses is an intriguing fact. The ability to adjust the focal length without replacing the entire lens places the zoom lens in a beneficial situation. This makes zoom lenses more widely applicable at a much lower cost. Prime lens. On the other hand, prime lenses are much better for taking portraits. Large apertures and fixed focal lengths produce or create ideally crisp images with fewer aberrations. Which lens should I use? There are a lot of excellent choices for portrait lenses. Understanding the impact that distortion, compression, angle of view, and depth of field have on your image is crucial when choosing a lens. Your preference would be really important before you settle on a single lens. Here is what you must understand before choosing any lens for your work. An extremely fast 35mm or 50mm prime lens can be your best option if you're shooting in a cramped place or in poor light. A 20 to 70mm f2.8 zoom lens is a more flexible choice. This lens performs admirably while photographing both individuals and groups. 70 to 200mm f2.8 is a favorite to many since it has lovely bokeh and nice compression, especially when zoomed in all the way. A telephoto lens having a range of more than 200mm is used by professional wildlife photographers to capture birds, animals, and other things from a distance. How to test the best focal length for portraits. You can arrange different camera lenses before planning your shoot. Then you need to set up an environment where you can practice each one of them. It helps to see various outcomes and understand what is involved. To carry on in taking better portrait shots, you can easily use this quick practice. Get a friend or relative to pose for you. Set him up for a smooth portrait or headshot. Point the camera at him while matching the height at his eye level. Get close or little back to see how it feels better to take the shot. It helps to pose him according to your previous image for each additional focal length beginning at 28 mm. Try all the focal lengths from 28 mm to 200 mm focal lengths. Changing lenses is necessary, but it's okay. If you don't have access to all those focal lengths, use the ones you do. You'll still detect a distinction. Keep your camera's aperture, shutter speed, ISO, and illumination the same for the most consistent results. Now, look at your computerized photos. You've just demonstrated to yourself how the appearance of people in portraiture is impacted by focus length. Additionally, you now understand what portrait focal length to utilize for headshots. Thanks for watching our video. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Comment if you have any feedback or query, and hit the bell icon for regular notifications.